Look at Manpasand Beverages. That is not doing well at all. Courtesy the news that came out that the auditor of Manpasand Beverages has resigned 3 days before the annual results and the quarterly numbers are to be announced. Now, 2.2 Capital and Amit Mantri, who is the managing partner, has in the past written about Manpasand Beverages. His article is titled "A Curious Case of Manpasand Beverages," and he's raised a lot of fundamental points on the finances reported by Manpasand Beverages. I confess that some of these, to Amit's mind, of course, all of these raise a very interesting question, but there have been equal number of people who've been believing these numbers and believe that the company is looking very strong as well. However, it's an interesting spate of developments, and therefore it's important to get in Amit Mantri of 2.2 Capital to join in and talk about what he made of this resignation by the promoter, by the auditor. Amit, good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. I take it that you've been skeptical about Manpasand and its finances for a while now. My question is, does this event lead you to believe that your concerns are vindicated, or could this be a case of the auditor, as a guest was telling us in the morning, that the auditor may have resigned because the big four have some principles about physical verification, etc., which they may not have gotten, but an Indian auditor, and a good one at that, might join in very soon and might lay to rest the rumors that are floating around. What would your reaction be to the overnight development?
So I probably will not speculate right now on what the reasons for the resignation are, but more importantly, the company should have disclosed what the auditors have, the reason that the auditor has resigned for. And in their filings with the exchange, we don't have any such a disclosure. All that they have disclosed is that the auditors have resigned suddenly, and that doesn't say much. That doesn't inspire confidence. Typically, as we have seen in the last few cases, when the auditors do resign, it ends up creating more problems. It ends up bringing out more problems in the future. And in this case, we'll just have to wait and watch what were the reasons, what was the rationale. Have, for example, Deloitte also reported Manpasand to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs for whatever reason. So it's still early days. All that we know is a Big Four auditor has resigned suddenly. We don't know the reasons for the resignation. And we ourselves have a lot of other concerns on the business front.
Amit, what are those concerns, since you'd highlighted a lot of concerns in your article that you'd written way back, I guess, in 2015 or 2016, I'm not too sure. But you'd compared the company to Parle, which is a dominant leader when it comes to their brands like Fruity. You'd also compared how a company like Manpasand Beverages was generating more revenues compared to Parle. So this being one concern, what are the other concerns that you've actually observed while analyzing a company like Manpasand Beverages?
Yeah, so that's the main concern in terms of the market share that the company was reporting. If you look at right now, the company is claiming a market share of more than 10% in the fruit drink market. And, 10% is a huge number. Some of the other famous brand names which have much higher consumer recall, say something like a paper boat, have less than a 1.5–2% market share in this industry. Even the likes of Fruity overall nationally have only a 20% market share, close to a 20% market share. So for a company to say 10%, that's a big number. Now, the challenge that was coming up to us was when we did our on-ground surveys, when we were going to retailers, when we were talking to distributors, we were unable to find evidence of the kind of sales that the company was talking about. So that's been the major concern that we have had regarding Manpasand. There have been other concerns as well, in terms of the disclosure of related parties that was missing from their IPO documents, from the DRHP and the QIP documents as well. The promoter's brother runs a competing business, which company brand name Mango Fresh, and that should have been disclosed in the QIP documents. It wasn't disclosed. Then there are other concerns regarding just the employment, the employee costs that they have. If you look at just the senior management of Manpasand, and if you compare it with the senior management of any other comparable business, consumer business, you will see that for some reason, the salaries of the senior management are extremely low. And when we had written back in 2016, the typical salary was less than 10 lakh rupees for the senior management. In fact, there are several people in the senior management who are getting as low as 3.5 lakh rupees per annum. And this is not per month. So that's unheard of, for a 4,000 crore market cap company having an employee cost which is of the senior management which is so low.
Okay, those are some key concerns being highlighted by Amit. But tell us more about the fundraising, Amit, that the company did. They came out with an IPO, then the gap was really less with regard to the QIP money they raised from the market. I'm looking at the financials. I don't think they have any debt because they use certain proceeds to pay off the debt. Has there been any concrete expansion plan that one has seen post they raised the money from the IPO and also from QIP?
So what's interesting is in the IPO, they raised close to 400 crore rupees. In the QIP also, they ended up raising close to 500 crore rupees. And that was in the shortest time period in the Indian capital market history. The IPO happened in 2015. In 2016, they were doing a QIP. They have announced, capex plans. They plan to set up several new plants. So they have a plan of deployment of this capital. What we find interesting is, despite such a long history, the company just doesn't have any internal accruals that allows it to support its growth plans. You don't typically see that in consumer businesses.
Okay. Amit, so I reckon, at least when you guys wrote this post in December 16, you didn't have any positions. Do you have existing positions in Manpasand?
No. No, not at all. We never had any.
Okay, and my final question to you would be that with the current spate of information that you have, including the resignation of the auditors and the reaction that we've seen on the stock today, do you fear or do you believe that there could be more in store? Keep in mind, you could well turn out to be wrong, and it's okay because you don't have a position in this one. But just looking at the information, from the information that you have, do you believe that there could be more pain in the short term for Manpasand stock? And if they appoint a notable Indian auditor or a non-foreign auditor, or maybe even a foreign auditor for that matter, will that salvage the situation somewhat?
Yes, so I don't know what will happen to the stock price. It can go down, it can go up. Remember when we wrote in 2016, the stock price is still above those levels. So it's not like the market is reacting to anyone's writing, or even in this case, it's only a one-day reaction. So you don't know how seriously people are going to take this event. And over the longer term, I feel the company's stock price will be more determined by their ability to keep growing earnings, keep demonstrating that, yes, this market share that they're talking about is visible to everyone. So people like us currently have serious concerns over their market share numbers. If eventually even we start believing that, no, this market share numbers are actually real, then maybe the stock could even do well.